I've found it interesting to notice in the last few days that some social media outlets have put out criticisms of Trump that echo those criticisms Biden was getting a few weeks ago about his age. It's unlikely to me that that was a plan from the Democratic Party from the beginning. I think the disorganization around selecting a new candidate, selecting a successor for Biden it wasn't faked. I think it's more likely that it's an accidental and maybe a bit desperate attempt to turn criticisms on Trump. However, it got me thinking about, as a lot of people have been thinking, about Trump's selected successor, J.D. Vance. It doesn't seem accidental that J.D. Vance is, a 40-year-old. I think he just turned 40, and can allay or can take away some of the merit of a criticism on age. Compared to Biden and Trump, J.D. Vance is an energetic youth. However, it's also interesting, and it doesn't seem accidental to me, though it could purely be a coincidence, but it's an interesting one, that the selecting of J.D. Vance, the ceremony for the successor of Trump, or the right-hand man, happened just a few days after Trump's attempted assassination. Now, it doesn't seem accidental to me that Trump also came out with the bandage. Now, I think it was his first public sighting after the fact, but that also doesn't seem accidental. I think I wouldn't be surprised if it is a coincidence, then it's a very necessary one from the Trump camp. But if it isn't a coincidence, if it wasn't planned earlier, it seems to me that internally the Republican Party, very much the party of Trump now, but more importantly the Trump tribe, the Trump network in the center of it, realized they almost lost everything. If Trump had been shot, I find the argument that the Republicans would have rallied around another of the candidates, without division, very unconvincing. Now, if Trump was assassinated, which there might be another attempt, I don't doubt that the Republican support base and party would rally around J.D. Vance. Now he's been selected and marked as right-hand man and, I think importantly, successor. I don't have difficulty seeing that. Now, so there's the aspect of youth. I think the successor one is more interesting. And when I was talking with a friend, it got us onto the conversation of the new Caesar everyone's talking about. Seems now it's a very popular thing to say on social media, who's going to be the new Caesar? Where will he come from? America is an analog to late-stage Republican Rome, which I think has merit as a comparison. But it's now in the zeitgeist. Who's the new Caesar? Is Trump the new Caesar? I haven't been fully convinced by it. I have trouble seeing Trump as consciously and proactively politically intelligent. Like, he doesn't seem to be a Caesar. He doesn't seem to be a general ready to grab the crown in the gutter. He isn't Napoleon. He is clearly, unconsciously very intelligent, and that's my way of saying he has very good instincts for politics in the United States, as I think that photo showed. I think that was WWE Trump emerging and taking control of the popular image. I think that image has won the election. I think there's no doubt now what result we'll see in November, if it is a fair election, if it is a matter of popular vote. Now, however, I have trouble seeing, as I was saying, Trump as a Caesar-like figure. He has a lot of the ingredients, but he's missing certain. He doesn't fill in the silhouette for me. My friend brought up Sulla, which, if you know your Roman history, this is, by the way, this is your moment of the day to think about the Roman Empire, in case you hadn't noticed. But Sulla was a dictator a few decades before Caesar, and Caesar's political generation the Conservatives, the Progressives, the two main parties in the Senate, or rough bands of alliances in the Senate, were constantly thinking, or were brought up in a time of dictatorship, the time of Sulla. There was time of purges, there was time of dictatorial power, and everyone had that on their mind, and it conditioned the environment that Caesar emerged in as the next dictator. Now, if Trump is Sulla, that I like that comparison, even though I earlier said there's historical comparisons and historical comparisons. Point being, I like that comparison because it's different. I haven't heard it before. But it also gives us some more context. It isn't all just as simple as there's the next Caesar. We may be seeing the groundworks for the next few years. But it also got me thinking to some strategies that J.D. Vance and Trump can employ. Because some people think, and I don't think they're wrong, that we'll see some violence this November in the United States. I think that's almost a given. Now, the extent of that is where there's room for discussion. I suspect that we won't see violence of the kind that we can't come back from, or that society can't come back from. I think that's more likely if Trump decided to run for a third term, or during this second term, that he will win. I don't know. That's just my feeling. I don't see the perfect conditions for a perpetual state of violence in the U.S. I don't see the pool of men ready to take to the streets. But I may be wrong. I'm not omniscient on this matter. However, it got me thinking about, and it got me and my friend talking about some things that could happen. And one was, okay, so let's take the point that Vance has been marked as successor, and let's say it's more than that. Let's say it's in the next few years, maybe throughout the second term, Trump's age becomes noticeable, or maybe Trump doesn't want to tackle that constitutional crisis that would be a third term. So he stands down as candidate and points to Vance to stand as candidate for the presidency. Now that's interesting in itself, but it's not wild. What would be interesting, and I think could happen, was Vance gets marked as candidate for the presidency, and then he calls Trump to be a vice president. Now that to me is delicious. It's Machiavellian. I can imagine the speech. I could never do it without you. Or the founder of a movement, the once in a generation figure, a great man. I couldn't make America great again without Trump. That you can see it. You can see the words emerging. And an interesting thing is this isn't unheard of in contemporary politics, in international contemporary politics. It is what Putin did between the role of president and prime minister in the Russian Federation. He would switch, or he did switch during a term to get out of the term limit of Russian presidency. He then, years later, extended that limit, so it didn't apply to himself. But it's politics is a game of political capital, and so it's a way to get around it. And throughout that exchange, Putin was still clearly the one in control. Now, could that happen with Trump? Who knows? But it seemed to be I could almost see the conversation happening behind the scenes. The selection of a successor so soon after an assassination attempt, the palpable desperation, or the anguish, the gaping void that the Trump network almost fell into when they almost lost their figurehead with no public successor declared. And it's the only problem with this theory, this possibility, is that, as I said earlier, I don't see, but this may just be me not seeing it. I don't see the conscious political drive to make that sort of play in Trump. Maybe it's in some of the people around him, but a lot of these things, I suspect it takes the figure himself or themselves to realize that. And it may be hard to convince them, and the people around them may not be willing to convince them. Anyway, that's a fun Machiavellian possibility. Have a great day.